Welcome back to HQ. Here's a look at the latest odds to win the Heisman Trophy in college football. Carson Beck leading the way, ever so slightly ahead of Ty Simpson. We are far removed from Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, and Cade Klubnik being the betting favorites in the preseason. Things are starting to take shape in terms of true contenders to win the prestigious award. We welcome back Chip Patterson for a Heisman check right now, and Carson Beck leading the way at 3-1. He was 5-1 last week here. So, Chip, is he a deserved betting favorite here entering Week 8?
Not in my opinion. I think that Carson Beck has a path to win the Heisman Trophy. If Carson Beck wins the Heisman Trophy, then I would not be overly surprised. I mean, we're dealing with a very certain top three, as you highlighted very well right there. But I think that Carson Beck is just not going to have as many opportunities as his competition to win games and be the reason why his team wins. I think that if Carson Beck wins the Heisman Trophy, it is more attrition or maybe the voters deciding that they're going to pick apart or nitpick at other quarterbacks when they take losses, if they take losses. The example here would be Dante Moore, who saw his odds tumble. He was at very much near the top of this board. A lot of people excited about what Dante Moore could do. That Ty Simpson could stumble. Mendoza could stumble. Carson Beck has an easier strength of schedule and he has more opportunities to just continue to win along the way. But what he does not have are those big stage spotlight games where he is going to be the reason why Miami is able to go and win and continue to stay in the national title hunt. Carson Beck is having a tremendous season. And if we were talking about ACC Player of the Year, then absolutely, Carson Beck's right there. But for the Heisman Trophy, I just don't know how many Heisman moments are going to be left on that schedule.
Yeah, it's a schedule at this moment that does not have a ranked team the rest of the regular season. But maybe he'll have an opportunity to flash when maybe the defense falls short. Now, here's a look at the chance to win the Heisman Trophy, the FanDuel odds, and then the odds reflective of such odds, meaning, again, 3-1, 23.8%. I mentioned Ty Simpson just behind him, 22.7%. But our Inside the Lines team at Sportsline crunched its own numbers and actually is more bullish on Ty Simpson than they are Carson Beck. So, Chip, when it comes to the Bama quarterback, arguably the time to get him best value is before the Georgia game, but he leads the SEC in passing touchdowns. They've got the Vols coming up. He was 8-1 last week. Where are you at with Ty Simpson?
Yeah, Ty Simpson is my pick to win the Heisman Trophy as we sit here heading into Week 8. We did our mid-season expert picks on CBSSports.com. That was my selection. And I think that Alabama right now is the team that I would want to put my chip on to be able to go and win it all, thanks in part to what Ty Simpson's able to do. There is the football of it all. You mentioned the touchdown passes. You mentioned what he's able to do for this passing game. I think that he does a great job of being able to make the right decision in the red zone, and that's a thing that's going to help Alabama in some of its toughest games later throughout the rest of the season. We might see his odds get knocked a little bit, as they do have some tough games left remaining on the schedule. But what Ty Simpson has is an opportunity, much like his predecessor, Bryce Young. Bryce Young won the Heisman Trophy, in my opinion, in the SEC championship game. It was a little bit wide open. No one had a real candidate they were ready to glom onto, and he went and led Alabama to a victory over the Georgia Bulldogs, and he was very much the reason for it. Sometimes Heisman voters really go into that conference title weekend truly undecided. I think that Alabama's going to be in the SEC title game. I think Ty Simpson's going to be the reason for it. And maybe unlike Carson Beck, who we just discussed, Ty Simpson would be very, very likely going up against an opponent in the conference championship game that would be one of the best teams in the country. So I think Ty Simpson could even afford a loss in a way that maybe some of his competitors could not, just because there will be so many opportunities to get a little equity back. But yeah, I am with the Sportsline team in looking at Ty Simpson and thinking that those odds and the percentage chance of him winning, there might be some value there even at this short number.
You brought up Fernando Mendoza, third shortest odds, and yet he was actually the betting favorite about a month ago after their blowout win against Illinois. Is there enough sort of narrative meat on the bone, if you will, Chip? It doesn't sound like there is, because you mentioned what Ty Simpson has in front of him, but what do you think about the IU QB?
Look, It's the team that's right next to them on this graphic right now, because Indiana and Ohio State are on a collision course to play in the Big Ten title game in Indianapolis. And I understand that Ohio State makes everything a home game, but if Indiana can secure a spot in Indianapolis and be playing for the Big Ten title for the first time in program history with all of this momentum, and Ohio State's defense is the best in the country, and Fernando Mendoza takes them down, Tommy, there is narrative meat on the bone, but it really, really counts on Indiana. Step one, making the Big Ten title, and step two, Fernando Mendoza probably winning Big Ten title game MVP for his performance against those Silver Bullets, the Buckeyes defense.
That was reinforced by the scheduling graphic. Again, they will not meet in the regular season. All roads lead to the Big Ten championship. You mentioned the champs. It's interesting, Chip, of the 13 players on the betting board at 30-1 or shorter, Ohio State's the only school with 2 players, so you can talk about taking votes from one another. I'm talking about Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith, both coming in 18-1. Is there a path for a Buckeye to win the Heisman this year, you think?
I do. I think it's Jeremiah Smith, and I'm going to call back to 2020 when Devonta Smith wins the Heisman Trophy. Mac Jones, his quarterback, is a Heisman finalist. Mac Jones, in part because he was throwing the ball to Devonta Smith, had incredible statistics, and it was recognized as such with a lot of second and third place votes. But everyone recognized what they saw with their eyes, that it was the wide receiver, the superstar wide receiver, that was the one that was making it all happen. So between Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith, Tommy, I would say Jeremiah Smith would be more likely to do it. Again, recalling to see what Heisman voters did just 5 years ago with a similar predicament, because we talked about there being, some split votes along the way between those two, quarterback and wide receiver for Alabama, and yet we still saw the Alabama wide receiver end up winning the award. Jeremiah Smith is just so obviously a superstar with the way he looks, the way he plays, the way he performs. And the only descriptor, for those who might not know, I'm a Heisman Trophy voter, it is the most outstanding player in college football. Not the best, not the most valuable, it's the most outstanding. And when Jeremiah Smith is on, buddy, there are a few things that stand out more than what number 4 can do on the football field.
That was great stuff, including adding some context into the voting process. Chip Patterson, always delivering here on HQ. Appreciate you, my man. A reminder about the college football pregame show tomorrow. Ohio State, speaking of the Buckeyes, 26.5-point favorites over Wisconsin, who got blanked against Iowa. Live from Badger Bash in Union South, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern with Emily Proud, Brian McFadden, Kenzie Brooks, Damian Harris, Danny Cannell, and some special guests.